Hi friends, welcome to Bio Classroom. Today we are starting class 11 biology with chapter 1 The Living World. In this lesson, we will explore what makes an organism alive from growth and metabolism to consciousness and unique characteristics that separate living things from non-living things. So moving on to chapter, first we can see what are the characteristics of living world. So how can we say that something is living or not? So the first point is growth. All living organisms exhibit growth. In case of animals, they stops after maturity, and in case of plants, we can see unlimited growth. So growth means increase in mass or number. A plant grows by cell division, isn't it? And the second point is reproduction. That is the ability to produce their offspring. We know sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction are the two types of reproduction. The third point is metabolism. So metabolism means all the chemical processes that take place in a body. In case of plant, we can say photosynthesis, respiration, and in case of animals, we can say digestion, circulation. These are the examples of metabolic process. Only a living being can exhibit a metabolic processes. The fourth one is cellular organization. We know all living organisms are made up of cells, and the cells are the structural and functional life of an organism. Okay, and based on the complexity, there are unicellular organism and multicellular organism. And the last point is consciousness and self-regulation. That is, all living organisms are aware of themselves, isn't it? For example, plants bend towards light, humans feel emotions. These are all due to the consciousness within. Okay, so these are the characteristics of living world. Whether it is a unicellular organism or multicellular organism, all organisms will exhibit these properties such as growth, reproduction, metabolism, consciousness, etc. Okay, moving on to the next, diversity in the living world. So first we can see what is diversity. So diversity means wide variety of life found on earth. Okay, it includes differences within species, between species, and among ecosystem. Okay, here the difference is the main important part because due to the difference, these varieties are arising. Okay, so greater the diversity, the richer and healthier an organism. Because greater the diversity, there will be high number of variety. Okay, for example, a forest with many different species is richer than a forest with only one type of tree. Okay, the example shows the diversity in our living world. Okay, the first is plants. So the plants means there are different types, isn't it? Algae, moss, fern, gymnosperm, angiosperm, and in case of animals we can see insect, birds, mammals, and in case of microbes we can see bacteria, fungus, protozoa. So all those they will exhibit the diversity. Okay, moving on to next, nomenclature. So nomenclature means naming an organism in a scientific and standardized way, and it is an important point, and this name should be universally accepted so that each organism will be having a unique particular name throughout the world. Okay, so nomenclature is a system of naming organism in a scientific and standardized way. It is an important point and you should write the scientific and standardized way clearly. Then it should be universally accepted. That is, all the organism will be having a unique name so that the identification process will be easier. Okay, so that's all about nomenclature. Moving on to next, that is binomial nomenclature. So what do you mean by binomial nomenclature? It is a specific system of nomenclature in which each organism is given a two-part scientific name. So the important point is that here the name is having a two-part, that is a generic name and a species name. Okay, so the generic name should be written first, or the first part is the generic name and it should be start with capital letter. For example, Homo sapiens, we can say the Homo, the H is in capital letter, and species name. It is the second part which should be start with a small letter. The example that is provided in your textbook is Homo sapiens and Mangifera indica. Okay. So binomial nomenclature means it is a two parts naming system where the name is having a two part. Okay, generic name and species name. The generic name should be written first, or it is the first part and should be start with a capital letter, and the species name is the second part and it should be start with a small letter. Okay, and there is a rule for writing the scientific name. Okay, we can see what are they. The first is the generic name should start with a capital letter, whether it is Homo sapiens or Mangifera indica. The Homo, that capital H, it should be start with a capital H. Okay, then the species name, it should start with a small letter. Then what will we do if we print a scientific name? That is about the third point. It should be in italics. Okay, if we are printing Mangifera indica, it should be in italics. Mangifera indica. Okay, then what will we do if we are writing a scientific name? And that's all about the fourth point. It should be underlined. Okay, underlined in such a way that it should be separately underlined, not together. Okay, please note it. When we are writing a scientific name, it should be underlined separately. Okay, for example, if we are writing Homo sapiens, it should be underlined separately. Homo, then sapiens. Okay, for Mangifera indica, it should be separately underlined like this. Okay, don't forget it. So these are the ICBN rules. Okay, and we should follow this rule while writing or while using scientific names. Then the next point is need for classification. So why we need classification? We saw there are 1.7 million organisms. That is, we are having a rich diversity. We are having a huge variety of animals or organisms. Okay, so it is impossible to study each organism individually, isn't it? So classification makes the study of this vast diversity easy and systematic. So the first point is to organize. Okay. The second point is it helps in the identification of organism. Okay, how? For example, if you find a new plant, classification helps you compare it with a known group and identify it easily. Okay. So the second point is identification of organisms. So identification become much more easier. Okay. Then the third point is understanding evolutionary studies. Okay, classification arranges organism based on similarities. Okay, more similarity means they are closer evolutionary relationship. Okay, it helps us to understand how organism evolved from a common ancestor. Okay, so it will helps in evolutionary studies. And then the next point is it helps to predict characteristics. For example, if you know one organism, you can predict the traits of its group, isn't it? For example, That is, if you know the traits of mammals. Okay, if you are known to the characteristics of mammal, that is warm-blooded, hairy, mammary glands. Okay, so you can predict features of a newly discovered mammal. It will be quite easy for you to know the characteristics, isn't it? So the next point is the predict characteristics, and the last point is that maintain uniform naming worldwide. Okay, through identification, then classification, we will be giving nomenclature also, and that is scientifically or universally accepted. So each organism will be having a unique name. Okay, so these are the need for classification. So it makes us easier to understand, easier to study all over the varieties throughout our world. Okay, so the part 2 of this lesson will be continued in our next video. If you are having any doubt, please comment below. Okay, thank you.